Welcome to Corn Nation's Husker Talk. I'm Minnie Hunt, and I'm here with my very special and enthusiastic guest, Wilson Dittman. Wilson has a YouTube channel called Dittman Sports, and that's how I found him. And I have lots of Husker questions for you, but welcome, Wilson.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. I want to start out by just asking you, when did your Husker passion begin for you?
Yeah, since birth. I mean, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I still live here to this day, going to college in Omaha. And I've always had a family that's been around Nebraska's program. My dad went to Nebraska for undergraduate. My grandpa's always been a huge Husker fan. He had season tickets back in the 60s before even Bob Devaney took over the program and turned it around. So I've always been very close to the program and grew up going to games. I never had cable growing up, so some of my favorite memories are actually listening to Greg Sharp on the radio call Nebraska Football. So I've always really had a tight-knit connection with the Huskers. I was always that kid in elementary school, middle school that was always talking about Nebraska. You know, I couldn't get enough of this program, even despite the losing years. I would always be very optimistic about the future. Mike Riley, Scott Frost. I know those 10 years didn't go very well, but I was super excited always for the Huskers. And, I was born in 2006. I haven't witnessed too many good memories of Nebraska football. I think mostly the best memories were those later Bo Pelini years, but I still have a lot of optimism. I'm very excited about Matt Rule. And yeah, I've always been a huge Nebraska fan. I'm excited to see where this program goes.
So you mentioned your grandpa started the passion there. So that means that it's been in your family for what, about
60, 70 years?
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Greg Sharp is one of my favorite people because I am with you where I sometimes have not been able to watch the Huskers play, but his play-by-play is bar none. It is so fantastic when you get to hear it on the radio. It's 100 times, not even 10 times, 100 times better than any of, sorry to say, but any of the broadcasters I've heard.
You're so right.
I feel like you're right there.
To this day, when I'm watching games with my dad or even alone, I'll turn on the Greg Sharp call and I'll turn down the TV audio just so I can hear Greg call it over the TV. But yeah, some of my favorite memories are, when Nebraska beat Michigan State in 2015, I was listening to that on the radio, or Greg Sharp's call when we beat Northwestern on a Hail Mary in 2013. I have chills down my spine. Love Greg Sharp, love what he does for the football program and for basketball. And right now, again, he's fighting cancer. We wish him the best because, just kind of an inspiration for me. I have a broadcasting background as well. I did that throughout high school. I won a couple awards throughout the state of Nebraska for that. And Greg Sharp was always a huge inspiration for me because I've just listened to him forever. So really, really wish him the best of luck versus cancer. And hopefully we can hear him on the call this year once again.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes. So when did you start your YouTube channel then?
Yeah, so I started my channel about 2 years ago at this point, but it really didn't blow up until this winter, right? When I started the channel, I just posted every now and then. It was just for fun that, I talked Nebraska football, and the videos did okay. But really last winter around Christmas time, I said, okay, I'm out of school. I'm just going to commit to this. I'm going to post every single day and see how it goes. And my channel blew up. I had a video that got over 10,000 views. And from there, I skyrocketed to 1,000 subscribers overnight, and it's been a exponential growth since then. Just posting every single day. And that's hard to do sometimes, in June, July, thinking of content, but it's so worth it. And something I love about YouTube is the community I built on my channel is so special. I mean, there's guys who comment on all my videos, are always in my live streams, and guys who are just really, really awesome people. So the community that I've built, and I think other channels have built, is super special around Husker YouTube. And something that I found out is if you work hard enough on YouTube or you work hard enough in life, honestly, you will succeed. Like, that's something that I used for my YouTube channel. I said, okay, I'm going to post every day, see what happens. I succeeded, right? In high school, I said, I want a 4.4 GPA. I did that. I did that because I worked hard every day. It's just stuff like that. If you just commit to something, you'll get it. So I really found that on YouTube. Just work hard, work hard, work hard, and that's something that is really important to me.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your GPA
I
because
had to
wow,
throw that out there.
I am, I am, I'm so glad you did because he told me before this broadcast began that he got a full ride scholarship to Creighton.
Yep.
Congratulations. And wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, some of my subscribers like to give me a hard time for going to Creighton every now and then, when I mention it to them. But yeah, I grew up, again, big Husker fan. My dream was always to go to Lincoln. But I worked really hard throughout high school, and Creighton, swooped in and offered what they did, and I couldn't say no. I really am grateful for them and what they're doing over there. So I'm going to Creighton this year in Omaha, so I'm gonna stay local, but definitely a lot of love for the university. I am a Jaysker, I will admit, right? I have to root for the Blue Jays now on the side because I go to Creighton, but it's always Nebraska first. I'll always root for Nebraska basketball first, Nebraska baseball first, but I got to also root for my new university.
Well, I'm sure you're not the only one that goes to school there that roots for
for sure.
Huskers. And what would you say the buzz has been like there in Omaha when you're out and about for the Huskers?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I think mostly when I talk to people, I'll see people, at the College World Series this summer or even at the gym, and they'll recognize me from YouTube, and we'll talk a little bit about the Huskers. And in the past, when I talk to people, it'd be, okay, can Nebraska make a bowl game? This year, the question's been, can Nebraska be in the mix for the Big Ten title game or win 8, 9, 10? And mostly, I think that's coming from two factors: the confidence in Matt Rule, right? We love Matt Rule. We believe that he's rebuilding this program. And number two, Dylan Rowell. I mean, he just brings a spark to this fan base, a spark to this program, a 5-star talent who grew up being a Husker fan. Doesn't get much better than that. So, man, I'm really excited for this season. Everybody I talk to is getting really excited. There's a couple of people who, they've been hurt in the past, and I understand that, right? They're hurt because of the last couple of years, and they don't want to get on the optimism train. But that's just what we do here for Nebraska. I'm optimistic. I'm excited, to a fault maybe. And sometimes I'll get hurt, but I'm excited for this year. It's going to be different. And the vibe around Omaha is awesome. The vibe around Lincoln is phenomenal, as you'd expect. And I can't wait for this season. It's going to be unlike anything we've seen before, at least in a long time. And I'm just ready for it to get going.
Oh, me too. Same here. Now, you mentioned what people are expecting as far as the win total. And I really wondered, is that what the definition of a successful year for us is? Is that, ultimately getting to 8 or 9 wins? Or is it, I mean, not a lot of people like this term, but is it the culture that's being built there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, a lot of times when a coach takes over in year one, we can say, okay, it's just about looking at the culture or looking at the moral victories or making steps. And that's all fine during year one. But in year two, yeah, it's got to be on the win total. You've got to see it reflective on pen and paper and in the box score. So, as much as we can sit there in year one and say, okay, we got to show improvement, and we did show improvement in year one, it's time to hunker down in year two and actually show results on the field. So for that reason, yeah, I think it's important that Nebraska wins 8, 9, 10 games this year for a couple of reasons. Not only is the talent on this team phenomenal, but the schedule is really easy for the Huskers. We've heard the talk all offseason, can this team start off 6-1, 7-0? Can we beat Iowa? Can we beat Wisconsin? So I think if Nebraska even went 6-6 to start this season or to end this season, I think a lot of fans would be disappointed despite the bowl game, just because, we have a great opportunity on our hands with this schedule. We need to take advantage. Now, am I saying we're going to come off the gates firing and win 10, 11 wins? Absolutely not. I think we're going to be competitive in almost every single game we play. But something I like to tell my subscribers and people who watch my videos is we're taking baby steps as a program. And Matt Rule said this time and time again this offseason that, okay, we're taking a big step from year one to year two, but the bigger step is going to be from year 2 to year 3. That's when we're going to expect national relevancy. This year, we're just going to be in the mix for the Big Ten and, try to make things interesting. So I'm expecting around 7-8 wins, and that's really what it's going to have to look like in order for this to be a successful season.
Boy, what an exciting time to be a Husker fan. Finally, you mentioned moral victories, and I just wanted to, remind our listeners about how in 93 we got outplayed, or we actually outplayed Florida State for the national championship, but we lost because we didn't make the final kick. And, that felt like it was a moral victory, even though we didn't win the national title. And in 94 and 95, we did. Um, that's kind of a sour term for some people, but how do you think it plays into the fact that now we have all these 4 and 5-star recruits visiting Nebraska as far as the moral victories are concerned?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And this is something that people have talked to me about in the past. They say, okay, it's all fine that, 5-star David Sanders put Nebraska in his top 4, or that 5-star Michael Terry is very interested in the Huskers. He has us in his top 3, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't land them. And to that point, I completely disagree. Moral victories in recruiting are important. And, when we talk about them on the football field, I think they're not important. We saw that all throughout the Scott Frost era. Oh, moral victory. We only lost by, such and such points to Ohio State. We're getting so close. So I understand that it's a sour term on the football field, but it's completely different in recruiting, because you're getting close to landing these prospects, these 5-stars, without even having a winning season. We still haven't had a winning season in 8 years. And these programs, like Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M, they're fighting guys. They're fighting to get recruits that Nebraska is also going after. That's hard. That's hard to even be in the mix for guys like Michael Terry, David Sanders, without winning football games. So to all those people who say, oh, we're this close, but we still can't land these 5-stars, just wait until we win this year, right? We're expecting to win 7, 8, 9 games. If you can do that, yeah, you're going to expect some guys to flip. You're going to expect maybe David Sanders to get back in the mix and potentially commit to Nebraska over Tennessee. You're going to expect guys like, Michael Terry to flip, right? So I think recruiting is just heating up. It speaks volumes about what Matt Rule's doing here. Dylan Raiola also as a peer recruiter. And, a lot of people might be sour about the, getting close but not landing these 5-stars. We should also remember we have a bunch of guys who are already committed who are pretty darn good as well. So this is a good class for the Huskers. It's just getting better, and I'm excited to follow it.
Yeah, me too. That brings me up to the next question. What games are you planning on going to this year?
Yeah, I'm expecting to go to most of them. So definitely the UTEP game. We'll see the Colorado game. A little bit of a conflict there. I'll try to get down. Northern Iowa, of course. So I'll try to get down to as many home games as possible. It's hard now being a content creator because I want to get back for these post-game live streams. Me and my man Justin over there at the Nebraska Voice College Football are trying to work out something for that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, but I'll try to go down to as many games as possible. And I just love the environment, love Memorial Stadium. It's special. I've, been going down for almost every single game for a couple of seasons now, despite a lot of losing, and it's still been a lot of fun. I don't regret it for the world, and I can't wait to actually see some winning football this year.
Oh, I know. Me too. Are you looking forward to sitting on the opposite side of the stadium?
Opposite side of the stadium? What do you mean?
Where the Huskers switch sides now that we're on the west side?
I'll be on the north side this year. So north side.
The north side. Okay.
Yep. I'll be on the north side.
Oh, fun.
Year. So I'll basically in the end zone. Yep. I kind of like the end zone because it's, you might not have the best view of the field necessarily, but man, the fans are loud there. And I really like that. I used to be up kind of high, and I think used to be in East Stadium, and better seats, honestly, kind of around the, I want to say 25-yard line, but it wasn't as loud up there. I'll tell you that. Being down in the mix in the end zone, that's kind of where the fun is. So I kind of like those seats, but yeah, I've went all over the stadium, but I'm going to hunker down in the North Stadium this year.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I've seen a lot of views from that side too, and they look amazing. I don't think there's a bad seat there, to be honest.
Exactly. I agree.
You mentioned, last year I was watching one of your videos, and it was that we were down to 3 quarterbacks after Jeff Sims got injured. We were down to Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Luke Woke. Do you remember him, the walk-on?
Yes.
And so, this year, our quarterback room looks entirely different. If, and I'm not bringing any bad anything energy to our team, if Raiola, for whatever reason, can't start, say he stubbed his toe, I don't know. How comfortable do you feel with the backups that we have now?
Well, I'll say this. It would be a phenomenal downgrade from Raiola. That's just the first thing we have to mention, right? Like we talked about earlier, the number one thing that's got fans hyped up over the offseason is having a difference maker at quarterback. To have Raiola possibly go down with an injury or, God forbid, not start the year, which I'm not saying is going to happen. I think Raiola absolutely will start. I think that's going to really decimate the fan base and their optimism. Now, Haarberg, I think, it's improved throughout the offseason. I recently posted a film review one day ago, talking about him and his performance in 2023 and how I thought he improved throughout the spring game, and some of Matt Rule's comments toward him as well. Matt Rule's very confident about Heinrich Haarberg. He thinks he could run the offense. Now, part of that might be coach speak. He might just be hyping up his guy. We're not sure, but I feel a little bit confident that Haarberg can at least go out there and win us football games, because he won us 5 games last year. He can at least go out there and be a game manager and beat teams that we should take care of business against. But I'll say this: if Raiola somehow does not play this season, which again, this is like the worst case scenario, gets injured, I don't know, we will not be in for as good of a year as if Raiola would start. Like if Raiola is that guy, and we expect him to be that guy, to be a potential All-American as a freshman, he should lead us to about 8-9 wins. If Haarberg starts, yeah, we might be just around 6-7 at best, but I know that's going to really hurt the fan base and their optimism. But I don't think we have to worry about that. Raiola is going to be the guy, and he's going to be a very good quarterback from day one.
Right. I totally agree. Now, how do you feel about the quarterback that we just had, Jaylen Graham, that just committed from the NIA Player of the Year?
Yeah, great question. Jaylen Graham he's awesome. I was watching a little bit of his film throughout that open practice, and he's just such a smart quarterback. Like when you see him on the field, he doesn't necessarily blow you away. Only listed at about 6 foot tall, kind of smaller, but my goodness, is he smart. He always finds an open receiver. He goes through his progressions very quickly, and I think he's a good option. Now, the only thing I'll say about that is Haarberg's been in this offense for, a year and a half now. He has that leg up over Gramstad. Gramstad, in my opinion, was purely a addition to be kind of a veteran in that room, to kind of lead Raiola, to teach him the right ways to do things. Jaylen Gramstad, he wants to be a coach after his career with the Huskers. Again, this is his last year of eligibility. So expect him to kind of be a sideline coach for the Huskers and then to basically be a grad assistant next year. So we'll see if he gets on the field. I would like him to get on the field. I think he can really provide some spark to this offense if Raiola somehow goes down. But, worst case scenario, he doesn't play. He's still going to be a great coach and a great leader on this team. I can't remember who said this. One of the coaches said that they refer to him as Jaylen Football. They just always making plays, going out there, doing the right thing for the team. So I'm hyped up about him. This quarterback room is really, really intriguing. And then we should also mention Danny Kaelin. I've watched a lot of Danny Kaelin throughout his high school career at Bellevue West. And, he has struggled a little bit so far throughout the fall, but his upside is so good. He was a Elite 11 finalist, 4-star quarterback. And when he, has a couple years under his belt, he's going to be a darn good quarterback for the Huskers. So I'm very excited about this quarterback room. And of course, that it's all stems with Dylan Raiola.
Yeah. How then do you feel about our running game?
Yeah, I think our running back room is really deep. There's about 4 guys there, maybe even 5 guys I'd feel comfortable starting. Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Irving, Dante Dowdle, and Quentin Ives in that order. But to that exact same grain, it's a very deep room. But the only concern is that there isn't a guy in that room. There's not necessarily a guy who, is a top 10, top 25 running back in all of college football. We think that maybe Emmett Johnson could be that, but he's not that right now. So that's the only concern I have about that room, is that we just don't necessarily have that bell cow running back or that guy who can really take the top off of defense. But so again, very deep room, a lot of talent there. Maybe Dante Dowdle could even be that guy throughout his career progresses. But I feel confident about it. I feel good about a running back by committee. I know everybody wants a bell cow running back, but I like switching
Mhm.
guys in and out, guys like Gabe Irving, Emmett Johnson, every driver then, and then throwing in a guy like Ramir Johnson as well, who's really good in the passing game. So like this running back room, I like its versatility. Probably rated around a B plus. The only reason why it's not higher is because, again, there's just not that, quintessential, top end guy who has that NFL future, at least not yet.
Oh, I like that grade. I'll take that.
Absolutely, I'll
It
take that
kind of
too.
reminds me of our highlight just a couple years ago with Wandell Robinson. Do you remember him, the
Oh
running
yeah,
back?
yep. I love
Oh, he was a
Wandale.
great running back. How do you feel about our receivers and tight ends then?
Yeah, I mean, first off, with the wide receiver room, man, you could see the smile the second I start talking about it because I'm
Mhm.
incredibly excited. I mean, this is the deepest wide receiver room we've seen in a while. It's the most talented wide receiver room we've seen in a while. I mean, Jamal Banks is going to be that wide receiver one. I believe he's going to lead the team in touchdowns and yards. He's an NFL guy. I mean, just a straight up 6'4", really big receiver, can go up and get a jump ball type of guy. And then Isaiah Nair, I've heard a lot of good stuff about him through fall camp. He's going to start as well. Transfer coming in from Texas. He is just as big as Jamal Banks, about 6'4", 6'3", but he's so speedy and he can make a play after the catch, and I'd be remiss not to mention guys like Jalen Lloyd, Malachi Coleman, who are track stars. I mean, they're on the track team, and
Mhm.
guys, they run about 4.3, so just freak athletes. And then, I could keep going. You got guys like Janiron Bonner, who might start in the slot. He's a do-it-all type of guy. You have
Mhm.
Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, who's a leader who, when he's been healthy for the Huskers, has made some plays. You have true freshman Jacory Barney in that room, who's, constantly been performing well in fall ball, who's probably going to return kicks for us this year. So, man, I mean, it's a great receiver room. And, you could also throw out a guy like Carter Nelson, who's in the slot, who once again is another freak athlete who has a bright future with the
Mhm.
Huskers. So this receiver room, so many options, so talented, so many guys who are going to go to the NFL. And then, talking about this tight end room, I feel really good about it. Thomas Fidone finally got on the field last year. He got hit by the injury bug, unfortunately, to start his career, but he was good last year. He got open a lot.
Yeah.
We, still a little bit, below where we thought he would be as a, almost a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, but he's going to be good this year. What we need him to be is basically Raiola's best friend. If Raiola's in trouble, rolling out to the right-hand side, he's going to find Thomas Fidone for a quick 5, quick 10 yards. Now, the tight end depth is a little bit concerning. Nate Borkacher's played good reps for Nebraska. He's more of a
Mhm.
blocking tight end. Luke Lindenmeyer in the same grain. So, but we know how much Rule likes to utilize those tight ends. Hopefully they can step up. But I feel good about this receiver room in general. I'm excited. I'm very excited, Minnie. We've got 2 weeks, 2 weeks to see what they got, and I know it's going to be a good time.
Oh, yes. And I wonder, the only besides John Butler being added to the roster or our coaching staff, we had Glenn Thomas come as the quarterback coach, and now we have Marcus Satterfield as the offensive coordinator and Glenn Thomas as the assistant offensive coordinator. How do you feel with last year's? I mean, I know a lot of people brought this up, the time management as far as the clock. How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable with that going forward, or what are you
Yeah,
looking for?
it's a good question. That was one of the things that I was really disappointed about Nebraska last year, with Marcus Satterfield,
Mhm.
with, Matt Rule, because I believe Matt Rule is one of the best game planning head coaches in college football. He's one of the best X's and O's minds. But frankly, unfortunately, when we roll back the tape, I've been watching a lot of the Michigan State game from last year, Maryland game, Wisconsin game last year. And you go back to those fourth quarters, those games were lost, not even because of the quarterback play, just because of our inconsistencies when it comes to time management, when it comes to our timeouts,
Mhm.
when it comes to our play calling, situational play calling. And that losses a lot of football games. And, I feel a lot better about it this year for 2 reasons. Number one, Glenn Thomas, like you mentioned, is added to this offensive coaching staff. He's going to bring a wrinkle to this offense. He's not calling plays. He's not the traditional offensive coordinator, but he's absolutely going to play a part in throwing the ball a little bit more. And number two, it's a lot
Mhm.
easier to play calls when you have more talent on the offense and you have a very talented quarterback at the helm like Dylan Raiola. So makes things a lot more easier for the coaching staff. Very excited about what it could mean. But yeah, there might be a little bit concern there around Marcus Satterfield, perhaps with that play calling. But again, if the talent's as good as we think it is, I don't think that should be an issue. And hopefully it doesn't come up.
Right. And, they've mentioned a lot of times on these press conferences that now they're able to take that next step in teaching the offense. Whereas, before it was just about getting from point A to point B. Now they're able to throw in, okay, now this is what we need to look for. So it seems like, we're taking the steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think again, it's just baby steps. Baby steps as a program. That's kind of the theme of this offseason, that we're getting closer to the way we need to where we need to be. It's just about, seeing it on the field, continuing to add talent. This coaching staff, people forget that coaches develop as well. Matt Rule hired a young coaching staff here. Like, these guys are still kind of learning how to do their jobs, but they all have great potentials. Like, Garrett McGuire, a lot of people were doubting him when he was hired. He's this 23-year-old coaching the wide receivers. I don't think anybody's doubting him anymore with how good this wide receiver room is looking for the Huskers. So again, baby steps as a program. The talent's getting better. The coaching staff's getting better. And man, again, this season, we can't wait. This is a very anticipated season, and we're going to really turn some heads, not only among other Husker fans, but nationally.
Talking about the coaching staff, Tony White was kind of a surprising hire for Matt Rule, because there wasn't, that background with him. And Tony introduced us to the 3-3-5 defense, which is not a very popular defense that's ran in college football, but it's very effective. How do you think that learning the 3-3-5 defense for the players is going to help them in the future take that next step to the NFL?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, you look at the NFL, most of the defenses that's now run is about a 3-4. So that's, again, very similar to the 3-3-5, except you have a one more defensive back on the field. But I think really what Tony White emphasized on his defense is explosiveness, going for the football, getting turnovers, and filling up the stat sheet. And really that's going to, be huge when they develop, not only in their college career, but when they're getting to the NFL. So Tony White's, his background of getting guys to the league is paramount. I mean, he got a bunch of good players in the secondary from Syracuse to go to the NFL. That's not exactly a university that produces a lot of NFL players. So his background is great. And I love the 3-3-5 just because it's explosive. It allows guys, it allows more speed on the field, allows more opportunities for turnovers. And when you have a defensive line this good, like we're expecting, you can get to the quarterback only rushing about 3 or 4 guys. Now, that's a luxury in college football. In the past, when we'd had, defensive coordinators like Eric Shenander, they need to blitz 5-6 guys in order to get pressure. No longer is that the case. So, I mean, this defensive line, this defense under the 3-3-5, it's looking very scary. And I think just Tony White's development and the way that the 3-3-5 allows more flexibility for these players to play, it's just going to be huge when they inevitably get drafted and, make that transition from college ball to the league.
Yes. I totally agree. And on that same point, I was looking at the NFL Combine for the 2024 season or 2023 season that just happened in February. Of course, we know that Nebraska didn't have any players invited. And there were teams like USC, for instance, that had 8 players invited, or, even Oregon had players. What do you think a good number for Nebraska, seeing that now we have all these seniors and people who came back, players that came back, would be a good number for us, hopefully, to have invited to the NFL Combine?
Yeah, we're going to see a lot this year for the Huskers. When I've got this question before on my channel, I am expecting around maybe 8-9 players who end up inevitably going to the NFL Combine just because of how senior heavy this team is. There's a lot of talent. I mean, we could just roll over them really quick on guys who will probably get invites. I mean, you have, on the offense side of the football, Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nair, Thomas Fedoni, if he ends up leaving, would probably get an invite. You have Ben Scott, Bryce Benhart. You probably have to even throw on Micah Mazuka. So that's just the offense. That's 6 alone. You go to the defense, you go to this defensive line. that's just going to add on more. So it's a very, very talented team. I know a lot of people, they were kind of freaking out last year when the Huskers, didn't have any combine invites or they didn't have anybody drafted. That's just because a lot of guys came back that probably would have been drafted for the Huskers. Next year, we're going to have a lot of guys go to the NFL, and that just speaks to, how senior-led this team is and how good we're going to be this year. But with that, a lot of people are concerned, are we going to be worse next year because we're losing a lot of these guys? Absolutely not, because the depth is so good on this roster that, we think the guys we have, the guys who are starting right now are good. Just wait until some of these younger players are developed and are seniors as well. They're going to be just as good, if not better. So I'm super excited about the future. But yeah, this senior, it feels like this is the first time we've been old as a football team in a long time. Scott Frost would always say, we're so young. We have all these young guys. This is the first time we're old. So that's very good. And, that's all. Every single successful team, mostly in college, they're old. Iowa, every single year, is a very old team. Washington last year, they made a run to the national championship game. They were a very old team. TCU, when they made a run, very old team. So again, these veteran-led teams are made to go through these long seasons and make runs, not only in their schedule, but to the college football playoff. Not saying that'll happen, but sky's the limit.
That's a really good point. Very well said. I've been saying that for some time as well. You brought up a point that I wanted to make sure I highlighted, and that is when we hired Matt Rule, you did a video and you called him a player's coach, a development coach, saying that we had 0 players invited to the combine, and then you can take a jump to possibly up to 8, maybe even more. Now that is real development.
Oh, exactly. You went back in the archive.
That's impressive.
That video. That was,
I did.
No, I agree. And that was the big thing about Matt Rule. I think, and I've said this, me and Justin have talked about this. Again, you interviewed him in one of your last videos. And, when Matt Rule was hired, a lot of people they weren't like crazy happy about the hire. They probably rated it about a B-. Of course, now I think if you ask most Nebraska fans, they'd say an A+. But the one thing that we were super excited about when it comes to Matt Rule is, he was a great developer. He gets guys to the NFL. He turns around programs. He's a rebuilder, and he's a guy that players trust, that they feel like they can go to talk to him. And, you already hear about these tight-knit connections, not only with current players who want to stay with Nebraska rather than leaving to the portal, but you hear about that when it comes to these recruits and these recruits' families. I talk recruiting a lot on my channel, and I talk to these recruits because they watch my videos, and we'll message, or I'll message, their parents will message me. And the one thing that they tell me is that Matt Rule, in his connection with these coaching or these parents and these players, it's unlike anything they get from any other program, that they just feel like Lincoln is a family environment, that they feel like they can thrive. So that's something I love about Matt Rule. And honestly, when he was hired, I probably didn't think that high of it. Now I absolutely do, along with everybody else, that he's, just a great players coach, a great developer. And I'm super excited about his future. I think, we struck a home run with this hire, and, it would just time will tell. Time will tell how good it turns out.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We talked a little bit about offense and defense. What are your thoughts about our special teams? How are we looking on special teams this year?
Man, we can get excited about this offense. We can get excited about this defense. I'm nervous about the special teams, Minnie. And, the big theme this offseason has been chasing 3 for the Huskers. Now, how can we get back to those 3 points and get those close losses to become close wins? Well, the big concern there is it's very hard to chase 3 when you don't have a solidified field goal kicker. That's been a big battle throughout fall camp so far. Can Tristan Alvano turn it around? We know how talented he is. I follow Nebraska high school football extensively, and when he was a senior at Westside, he went 4 for 4 in the state title game in field goals. He won them that game. He was awesome. So just about getting those jitters away, I feel very good about him. But if he's not the guy, you have a transfer who is a 5-star kicker in John Hull now in that room. You have a 4-star kicker in Nico Otto Manelli from New Jersey. So there's options. Hopefully one of them hits for the Huskers. And then, in that same grain on the punter side of things, it's another concern because Brian Buschini, when he got to Nebraska in 2022, he was phenomenal And then in 2023, he wasn't that great. He was one of the worst punters in Power 5 football statistically. So I really like Brian Buschini. I think honestly he could turn it up this year, but it's just about waiting and seeing. But that's kind of the way special teams is, specifically in the punting department, is that the punting really fluctuates every single year, even no matter how talented a punter may be. So hopefully Brian Buschini can get back to that 2022 level. But here's what I say to that. Hopefully we're not punting much this year as an offense. But yeah, there's a couple concerns on the special teams, but I'm excited about the returners, specifically the kick returners, guys like Corey Barney, some defensive backs who are also returning kicks. That should be a good time for the Huskers. We might bring some back this year. So get excited about that.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, this has been such a great interview, Wilson. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of all this Husker information. Is there anything else that I'm missing that you would like to share?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay.
Well, nothing off the top of my head. I'm really excited for this season, really excited for this defense. And something that I've harped on throughout this interview is just the talent's really good. The starters are really good for Nebraska. But I love the depth because we've seen talented Nebraska teams in the past. We've seen some really good starters. We just haven't seen this level of depth in a long time. And that just brings me confidence about this team. It gives us a sense of insurance that even if, let's just say, we love Nash inside on that nose tackle spot. God forbid, if Nash were to become injured, we would still be okay on that D-line because there's so many guys who are really, really good backing him up. So that's what I really like about this team is how deep it is, how the positional coaches, Matt Rule, stepped up to bring these young guys into the mix and make them instant contributors. So I'm very excited. I'm excited about this schedule. That Colorado game, Memorial Stadium is going to be going nuts. I've already had a lot of conversation with Buffalo fans, and they're giving me some trash talk. I'm giving them some trash talk. It's all in love. That's what college football is about. And again, we're 2 weeks away, Minnie. It's been a long off season, but it's finally time to watch some football.
When I come to Lincoln, I'm coming for the Colorado game. Maybe you and I can meet up if you are around.
Absolutely.
I would love to see you in person and, meet some of your followers as well.
Absolutely.
I know you're building such a great community there. Where else can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Wilson D Sports, also on Instagram at Wilson Dittman if you want to get a little sneak peek into my personal life, my college activities. But yeah, again, mostly on YouTube, Wilson Dittman Sports. Been trying to post every single day. We've done that all summer. It'll be harder a little bit when college starts up, but I'll still be churning out content. You better believe, with a lot of stuff talking about Huskers. So again, I want to thank you for having me on. Respect Corn Nation. I've been watching Corn Nation for a while now. I don't necessarily watch a lot of Husker YouTube, and I think, frankly, that's probably why my channel's done pretty well, is I try to bring kind of a unique twist. But the channel that I do watch a lot, Corn Nation, I watch you guys a lot. Justin, of course, my man at Nebraska Voice of College Football, shout out to him. You guys do just a phenomenal job, and I want to give you guys a lot of praise. You guys have built a phenomenal community here on YouTube, 10,000 subscribers. I mean, it's awesome. So really congrats to you guys, and I'm excited to see what you guys do throughout the season.
Thank you. That's so nice. All right. Well, I'm going to put your email, your X and your Instagram in the description for anybody who else that wants to find you, as well as Wilson Dittman Sports on YouTube. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for viewing Corn Nation Husker Talks. I'm your host, Minnie Hunt, and to end this stream, I'd like to just say, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
Wilson? All right. Thank you.